Welcome to Explain It. Today, we're going to do something that might sound a little strange. We're going to take a scientific look at plane crashes. It's really all about turning tragedy into understanding. You know, our story today doesn't start with a bunch of numbers or statistics. It starts with a single, really shocking event. We're talking about January 28th, 2026, when a flight in India met a tragic end, and it sent a tremor right through the entire country. This is the scene. Baramati, India. A Learjet 45 was coming in for a landing. On board was Indian politician Ajit Pawar and 4 other people. But they never made it. The plane crashed, and it just exploded on impact. There were no survivors. An event like this? Wow. It immediately brings up that one question we all ask whenever we hear about a crash. How? How could this possibly happen? What in the world went wrong? Now, hearing about a crash like that, it's completely natural to feel a deep sense of fear. But to really get a grip on any single incident, we first have to zoom out and look at the big picture of aviation safety. And honestly, that picture, it's probably way more reassuring than you think. Okay, so let's get real. Millions and millions of flights take off every single year. How often does a fatal accident actually happen? What are the real odds here? Let's take a look at the data. And what's really incredible here is just the sheer scale of the improvement. I mean, look at this. This is based on Boeing's statistical summary. The fatal accident rate per million flights has just plummeted. If you compare the decade from 1975 to 1984 with the most recent one, the rate has dropped by over 90%. Flying has become extraordinarily, unbelievably safe. So if planes are so incredibly safe, what happens when things do go wrong? Well, the answer is almost never simple. You know, investigators, they're not looking for just one single mistake. They're looking for a whole chain of failures. And this is the framework they use. It's called HFACS. Think of it like peeling an onion, right? The unsafe act, that final mistake, that's just the outer layer. HFACS forces investigators to dig deeper. What were the preconditions for that error? What about the supervisors? And what about the big picture organizational culture that might have allowed it to happen in the first place? This chart really drives that point home. This is an analysis of 57 different accidents using that HFACS model. And it shows that whatever happens in the cockpit, that's only part of the story. In fact, environmental stuff like bad weather is the single biggest contributor. Then you add in technology, maintenance, air traffic control, it becomes crystal clear. A crash isn't just a human failure, it's a systems failure. Okay, now here's probably the most important part of this whole story. Every single investigation, every tragic data point, it all fuels this relentless cycle of improvement. Aviation doesn't just, move on from accidents. It learns from them. It has to. And you can see this process in action right here on this timeline. Each one of these milestones represents a lesson learned from a past tragedy. So, back in 1999, universal audits were set up to standardize safety everywhere. Then in 2011, a global runway safety program was launched. And we're constantly seeing new technologies and reporting formats getting rolled out, all in response to real-world data. And it's not just about stopping crashes from happening. It's also about making them more survivable if they do. Engineers follow these 5 core principles, and the acronym is CREEP. Basically, they design the plane to be a protective container, use effective restraints like seatbelts, absorb the energy from the impact, clear the environment of anything hazardous, and make sure there are clear post-crash escape routes. This is literally the science of survival engineering. All right, so with all this incredible progress, all this science, how on earth did the crash in Baramati happen? Let's go back to that tragic day and apply what we've just learned. Here's the crucial thing to understand. Not all flying is the same. The incredible safety stats we were looking at earlier, those mainly apply to the big commercial airlines you and I fly on. But general aviation, and that includes private charters like the one Ajit Pawar was on, that world often operates under a completely different, much more flexible set of rules. Now just look at the specific conditions at Baramati Airport that day. It was what's called an uncontrolled airfield. There was no professional air traffic control. Can you believe it? It was actually trainees from flying schools coordinating the traffic. The airport also lacked modern navigation aids and didn't even have official on-site weather services. This wasn't just one single failure. This was a system with multiple, dangerous layers of risk just baked right into it. And This is the devastating irony of the whole thing. The victim of the crash, Ajit Pawar himself, had reportedly seen these dangers coming. He had held meetings, he had pushed for the very upgrades, like a proper ATC service, that might have ended up saving his own life. The tragedy in Baramati is just such a stark reminder that the mission for aviation safety is never, ever finished. And it shows us exactly where the focus needs to be next. And that push for safety, it just keeps going, looking at every single variable. For instance, here's a wild fact for you. Extensive analysis of crashes where people actually survived has shown that passengers in the tail of an aircraft are about 40% more likely to survive than those up front. It's just a stark reminder that even when prevention fails, that science of survival engineering is still in play. So, when you boil it all down, this is the core takeaway. The incredible safety record of modern aviation wasn't some kind of happy accident. Nope. It was built, piece by piece, from analyzing failure. Every crash, as tragic as it is, provides data that makes the next flight just a little bit safer. Which, it leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? We have poured immense resources, genius, and engineering into perfecting the aircraft themselves. But the case of Baramati asks a really pointed question. Have we invested enough in the ground infrastructure that supports those planes? Because at the end of the day, a plane is only as safe as the system it's flying in.